Welcome to the BNI Knox Podcast with your host, Andy Brassfield. The BNI Knox Podcast is provided for the sake of our members. That's our target audience right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And our region actually expands greater than Knoxville, from Crossville to Tri-Cities. And so for all you members that are listening, we appreciate you, and we provide this for you. And we invite anyone and everyone to listen because the content we want to bring can benefit you and your business. And if you're not a BNI member, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll help you locate a chapter near you. Today's special guest on our podcast is Joel Kavanaugh. And Joel is a member and a director in our region, and we're happy to have him on. He's been in business for 4 years in the mortgage lending business, and we will ask him to give us his elevator pitch here in a minute. Previous types of jobs, he was a pastor, still is, right?
That is correct. I still do bivocational ministry.
And laboratory technician and cashier. He's married to Corrine. And they have 4 beautiful children. They're like me, too many cats and dogs. That's the way I like to say it here at my house. Somebody says, how many cats and dogs do you have? Too many. But we love them. We love. It's not that I don't love them, but there's just too many of them. And he enjoys family time, watching movies and outdoor activities. He's from lives in Johnson City, and been there for 9 years. Joel's burning desire is to be debt-free and serve others. Here's something nobody knows about him. He was once voted most likely to become a priest. And his key to success is treat others better than they want to be treated. Joel, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy. I appreciate the opportunity.
So you work with Success Mortgage Partners, that's the name of the company now?
That is correct. And our office is Lending Path Mortgage. We are doing business with as Success Mortgage Partners. Our regional office is in Columbia, South Carolina, and our corporate headquarters are in Plymouth and Livonia, Michigan.
Cool. How long have you been in that business?
So having been in the mortgage business for about 4.5 years, and I joined up with Lending Path and Success in August of last year. These are guys, though, that I have known for probably 3 years, almost right after I got into the business. And they just are a top-notch group of people, and it's just a huge blessing and opportunity to be with them.
Well, that's cool. And how long have you been in BNI again?
I have been in BNI almost since the day I started, so just about 4 years.
How did you happen to get into BNI? How did you hear about it or learn about it?
Sure, that's a great question, Andy. Thank you. So I learned about BNI through someone who had been in the chapter for quite a long time in the insurance world, and he had actually been one of the parishioners in my church. Our children were close to the same age, and I knew him when he was leaving an established firm and going off and starting his own. And one of the things that he said he had to continue on was BNI, and I didn't know what that was. But shortly after I ventured out of the church world into the business world, I basically asked him if there was an opening in his chapter and if I could come visit. And at the time, the mortgage seat was taken. And about 2 weeks later, I just had an inkling. I said, I'm going to Google this thing. I have no idea what he's doing, but I want to learn more about it. And lo and behold, I found where their chapter met, and there was no mortgage person listed. So I went online, clicked, registered myself, showed up at the meeting at the set day and time, and there were 2 other mortgage people there that day substituting for members who were absent. And the visitor host team looked at the 3 of us, and I registered, and the other 2 were subbing. And I think they did a visitor orientation with all 3 of us and gave us all applications, and I happened to be the one that filled it out first with a check.
Yeah, fantastic. So how's it worked out for you?
It has been absolutely great. BNI has given me a whole different level of business understanding and confidence. As a pastor, you get used to speaking in public, you get used to speaking to people, being on the radio. Some pastors are on TV and whatnot. And that's all great, but being in BNI really helped me to refine some of the practices that I have and build on what I already knew. So being able to give a better elevator speech, so to speak, being able to relate to people, having a lot of similar principles to what was practiced in the church made this a very easy fit. And I've been able to build some very strong relationships with our chapter, with people who are currently in it, some newer, some older, but all of us have gelled very well together. Business-wise, it is a staple of what I do, and I actually encourage everyone in our office in different locations to participate in a BNI chapter.
Yeah, you were telling me pretty recently that somebody in one of your other branch offices had found an opening for mortgage in a local chapter there, and he was pretty excited. Where was that?
So our branch management is based in Columbia, South Carolina, and a lot of the folks there live in and around Lexington and will commute into Columbia, into the downtown area where our office is located. And there was an opportunity in one of the Lexington chapters, or maybe the one, I'm not sure how many there are, to join up. And our manager was thinking about it, and I had the opportunity to not just talk with him, but send him the PDF application and send him a link to their website so he could kind of do what I did, which was be the first to apply and pay, and therefore be the first one that the membership committee could look at.
Yeah, there's obviously there's BNI chapters all over the world now. 9,000 almost, and 250,000 members. So no matter where somebody is, there's usually a chapter nearby. Especially in the United States. I know that it was last year. I think we had our first chapter open in Russia, and please forgive me if I'm not using the correct thing there when I say Russia. I know that means different things to different people. So yeah, it's really cool that you can help somebody even in another state, somebody else in your organization getting plugged into a BNI in their community, and it helping to grow their business. Now, you are not only a member, but you're also a director consultant. Tell me a little bit about your journey from joining BNI to becoming a director consultant. How did that happen, and why were you interested in going that direction with BNI?
Excuse me. I'm getting all choked up thinking about the story of that, Andy. And when I joined BNI, it was one of those, very quickly realized this was a necessary and important part of the business. Our chapter at the time was in a rebuilding phase, and we've leaned very heavily on the director consultant for the region, as well as the area director, the executive director. And through the opportunities I had to build the relationship with them, they looked around, and at the time we had several chapters in this region and the desire to grow more. And the director consultant said, I can't do this alone. She could only manage so many people and so many chapters. And she recruited me to come and join her as a director consultant. So I was able to participate in the training, talk with her, shadow her for a time, visit the chapter that she was participating in, and she would regularly visit mine, and we would get together and sort of compare notes and build off of each other. And one thing just kind of led to another, and that's been a very unique opportunity to grow not only in the chapter, but be able to say, okay, what can we do to try to strengthen this region? Because Northeast Tennessee is geographically spread out, perhaps more than other areas. I mentioned Columbia. In Columbia, you have hundreds of thousands of people, but it's a much more compacted area geographically in Northeast Tennessee, in the Tri-Cities, as we call it, with Johnson City, Bristol, and Kingsport, you have a similar population base, but a much bigger area to cover. But this is home for a lot of us, and I have family roots here, so it's one of those, I want to see what we can do to build the region for good and to try to help as many businesses as possible.
So you were invited to join the Director Consultant program, and why did you say yes?
Well, it's one of those, that's another really interesting question. I said yes because I thought, well, I need to do this for my own growth. And I felt like my background and my training as a pastor actually kind of helped to equip me in some ways for what I would deal with when it comes to chapters, when it comes to helping people. And I was serving as the president of the state of Franklin chapter at the time, and we had seen tremendous growth. We had seen some changes. We'd had people go through life circumstances. Our chapter had changed locations multiple times, and just being able to sort of circumvent all the things that were going on there, I looked at it and said, if I can help others who are going through the same thing, this may be an opportunity. And honestly, when I was approached about being a director consultant, I had to think about it long and hard and realize what was going to be involved. But I'm glad I did it, and I don't know that I've looked back since then. It's not easy, but it's very much worthwhile because I get to build relationships, not just in my chapter, but in the others that we help support.
Yeah. I'm hearing giver's gain in that answer and explanation. You know, you felt, number one, you felt that you had something to bring. You had something to offer. You mentioned, you know, that your experience with the church, dealing with people, you know, that was transferable, and I totally agree. But then you also said that you felt like that you would learn more. And I thought that was really important because we do offer our directors a deeper level of training in the BNI system, and not only training, but accountability. And, you know, then there's an additional aspect that I'm really loving right now, and that is how that our directors, they get to know each other, they network with each other, referrals are passed on the director team where appropriate, and we're talking about people that are not members of the same chapter, you know, and same is true for me. I'm interacting with directors and ambassadors as well as members, but I'm really building relationships with my directors because I have so much contact with them, and we're seeing referrals, you know, coming out of that. And the cool part of that is most of these people, I've never even been in the same chapter with them, you know, and so it's just another level of networking. While we're on the subject of directors, you know, we do have some need in our region for some additional directors, and specifically in launch directors. And so I'm asking my director team, both you, Joel, as well as the other members, to help me identify members in our region that might be candidates for a launch director. Now, the difference between what we commonly refer to as a support director and a launch director is a support director works with an existing chapter, and a launch director helps build a chapter out of nothing. And then once the chapter is launched, it's handed over to a support director. Launch director goes out, you know, to build another brand new chapter. So if you have any, you know, if you see or recognize any members that you're working with that may be a candidate for that, you know, I would certainly ask you to identify them, bring them to my attention. But I want to empower our directors to go ahead and initiate conversations with such members and talk to them about the program and find out if they would have any interest in working in that capacity, at the same time as you're bringing it to me, and we can talk about it too. Because one of the things that I've learned here in this position as executive director is I cannot do it all. I just can't do it all. And I think that success here is like success in business and in life, is really dependent on who I choose to surround myself with, and of course our director team is the first line of people. I like to think of y'all as my inner circle, and so of course I'm certainly happy to have you on that team, no doubt. Let's talk a little bit for a minute about your BNI referrals. You've already told us that BNI has been really instrumental in helping you grow your business and helping you to learn more about business in general. So a lot of the principles that we teach in BNI are applicable to business in general. And I found that to be true in my experience. You've talked about lasting relationships being one of the benefits of membership. And I could really shout hallelujah from the rafters on that one. Okay. For me personally, in my experience, the people that I've met in BNI, I would not have met. Not only did I meet them, but through the system, the BNI system, I've been able to develop relationships with professionals who are outstanding in their field. And often they have had an impact on me, my business, my personal life, by the things that I've learned from them. And by also, in some cases, by me hiring them for their services. Not only am I giving referrals to them, but in some cases I am able to hire people, and that takes me to another level to where I'm able to benefit from their professional services. But I wanted to ask you about your BNI referrals. What's the best referral you ever got in BNI?
Ooh. Define what you mean by best, and I think that'll give me a little insight into how to answer. I know, but I want to hear from you.
I wanted to let you define best, because I didn't say the biggest dollar amount, or anything like that, because I've seen, for example, I've seen times when referrals come in the form of an opportunity to do a business deal that is worth X number of dollars. But then other times I've seen referrals come in the way of a connection to a referral source that turns into referral after referral after referral after referral. You see, so I really wanted to allow you to define what's been your best referral.
That's a great one, BNI. And that's a really good question, Andy. I've never been asked that before. So, but the one that I can tell you just immediately comes to mind. We had a visitor come to our chapter, and unfortunately, this visitor, he's friends and he's also colleagues with a current member of the chapter, and that the visitor's seat was already taken. Okay, but the member wanted him to come and experience what the chapter was like, and hopefully be able to send him to a different chapter. Okay, what a great way to invite visitors.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
this shows a couple of things. That visitor came, we connected, and it just so happened the day that he came, and I gave my weekly presentation. I gave an ask, and it happened that he was in one of those people that was looking for a home. And in the residential mortgage business, we like those people. We like first-time home buyers. And he was looking for a home, didn't think he could do it, but we scheduled an appointment as a one-to-one. And that visitor wound up becoming a thank you for closed business, as I did his home loan. I was able to refer him to the realtor in our chapter, refer him to, somebody else to get business insurance. He was able to meet and connect with people and begin trading, even though his seat was taken. He has traded, I know some business, with the person that's in his industry. And we've all been able to benefit and develop some actual friendships. And he and I are actually scheduled to have some more time together as he's helping me grow my business and I'm trying to help him grow his.
That is awesome.
So we've gone from cold visitor to happy client who referred me to other people. And from there, we've built a friendship where, if he calls, I'm going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that is the power of what BNI is all about. Because were it not for BNI, his path and my path would never have crossed.
That is
the money I got
awesome.
from doing his home loan. Yeah, the money I got from doing his home loan is important, but it's a small percentage of the value of the relationship that's been built. And I can't wait to see as we continue to build him and I look to help him grow his client base and so forth. I mean, it's just been a lot of fun.
This sounds like a real life example of a principle that we teach. It's not about who's in the room, but it's about who the people in the room know. Right? So how many times have you seen a visitor come to a BNI chapter and they're looking at the people in the room and they say something like, I don't see too many people in this room that would be a good prospect for my business. And then we try to explain to them, it's not about doing business with the people in the room. It's about who do they know that you can do business with, right? So this is a prime example.
Absolutely.
Somebody in your chapter brought a visitor who wouldn't likely be able to join your chapter because their profession was already represented in the chapter, but they brought them anyway. Let's talk about that for a minute. What kind of for our members today who are looking for the opportunity to bring visitors to their chapter, what kind of instructions or advice, tips would you give to somebody who might want to invite a friend, colleague, client who already has their profession represented in the chapter?
Absolutely. And that's a great segue to, I know something that's near and dear to your heart, and that is, how do we show people really the power of what BNI is? And if their seat's already taken, okay, that's fine. We still want them to come. We still want them to register. We still want them to have a great experience, because you don't know how you're going to change that person's life and their outlook. And, as a director, we're always on the lookout for visitors who may be interested in starting another chapter. And we have the opportunity, if somebody comes and then, okay, so if another mortgage person comes and visit my chapter, that's fine. I'm going to follow up with them and see if they have an interest in either joining another chapter or maybe starting one.
Mm-hmm.
And this individual that came and visited our chapter, knowing that his seat was taken, but, you never know. Sometimes we don't want to prejudge people and say, well, what we do is exactly the same. It may not be, and we may be able to pass referrals. I've introduced two financial advisors. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had something like that happen in my chapter some years ago. We had a wonderful IT guy in our chapter, Jonathan Addington, and he has all my respect. He's my guy. I mean, when it comes to IT, he's wonderful. So he was a member of my chapter, and someone else invited another IT person to the chapter. Okay, IT, information technology, computers, networks. So they invited a visitor who, on the surface was a competitor of Jonathan's. And I was president at the time, and I was like, wait a minute, you invited somebody isn't that going to step on Jonathan's toes? And it was a learning opportunity for me. The visitor came in, we certainly made sure that he was right straight up introduced to Jonathan so that they could meet, and Jonathan knew that this person was in the room. They ended up sitting side by side during the chapter meeting. And by the time the meeting was over, they had already figured out that they served two different target markets and that they would be complementary to each other rather than competing with each other. And the second IT guy applied for membership in our chapter. And I was blown away. I was really blown away. I thought, you're kidding me, where I was going to, I was really going to say, well, we already have an IT guy. We shouldn't be inviting another IT guy to visit our chapter. And I learned the lesson that that's trying to be the membership committee, when you're not really supposed to do that you can invite somebody, and even if they appear to be a competitor, they might be, but they might not be, and what's best practices around inviting somebody to your chapter that seems like maybe there's already someone in your chapter that does that same thing?
Sure. So if someone were to invite another mortgage lender to my chapter, I would hope that our member would give me a heads up that they've invited somebody, so I wouldn't feel threatened when I walked into the room and saw another lender. I wouldn't know if they were kicking me out or if there's something I don't know. But if they give me a courtesy call to say, hey, I've invited so-and-so, they're in your industry, and I just wanted to give you a heads up, man, that would make me feel so good, not just as a member, but then as director, because then, like I said, we can talk about, does this person have any interest in going a step further to either join another group or try to build one?
Mm-hmm. We had a visitor register for one of our chapters a few weeks ago that was a caterer, and I knew that chapter already had a caterer, and I guess I had a momentary lapse of memory or something. I contacted the vice president of the chapter and I said, hey, look, don't these people do the same thing? And he kind of repeated back to me what I just said. Well, Andy, we typically encourage visitors to come anyway and let them sort it out later, and and there you go, I'm like, doink. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to encourage the visitor to visit the chapter because we don't know if these two caterers are serving the same target market or not. They might be complementary to each other. They might be competitors with each other. We just don't know. And so I do want to take that opportunity to encourage our members to don't filter your visitors beforehand. Feel free to invite them, but it's really, really important that you communicate with your current member to let them know you're bringing somebody in their industry. And this is going to give your current member the opportunity to find out, okay, who is it? Give me their name. Maybe they might have a database that they can look them up and find out something about them. But definitely they won't be caught off guard. Can you imagine walking in, like you said a minute ago, walking in and bam, there's your competitor,
And that's exactly how I felt when I visited my chapter the first time, not knowing anybody, registering online without an invitation. And that's just because I stumbled on it. And then I saw two of my competitors I know substituting that day. I think we all three looked at each other and, in the presence of the moment, it was who turned white the fastest.
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah, but with the simple heads up, then your member knows to be on the lookout for them. And what about this? Do you ever share with your chapter what you might consider to be proprietary? That if you had your weekly presentation or even your feature presentation prepared, but if your competitor was in the room, you might not want them hearing that, right?
Absolutely.
So then it gives you an opportunity ahead of time to adjust your presentation, and you can save that so-called proprietary information that you don't want your competitor to hear for another meeting, maybe next week.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, I was ready to give a feature presentation recently, and I had everything kind of mapped out, and it was going to be something a little different than what I would normally do, but I just felt like this was the right time and the right place. And I showed up, and looking at the audience that was in the room with some people that were not expected, some visitors and so forth, I had to fall back and say, this isn't appropriate for me to say to them, because I like you just said, you don't want to give away proprietary information.
Yeah.
So, having the opportunity to adjust is very helpful.
Right. So we want to invite everybody. Don't try to do the membership committee's job ahead of time by filtering them out, yourself. Communicate with your fellow members. So in case there happens to be any competitors, they'll know. But we might get surprised and find that, hey, they're not actually competitors after all, and they might become the best referral partners. So that's really good. I like that. So that was your best referral happened to be a visitor that couldn't even join your chapter. As we get ready to wrap up here, I do want to ask you, is there anything that you feel we should bring to our members, any opportunities, or we could even use the word challenges that you're seeing out in the field that our members are dealing with? Anything that that we might want to bring to them in this format that we could offer to help? Does anything like that come to mind for you?
Andy, that's another really good question. I don't know if you're just making these up on the fly or if you've written them down, but these are all great. And I'll tell you something that has really helped me. And when I look out across the landscape in my region and my little section of the region, just knowing that people can reach the director and they can reach up the food chain has brought so much confidence and assurance. And I can tell you this, I know our chapter in the 4 years I've been a part of it has never felt so supportive from everybody. And it's nothing negative against people before us, but it's just that being able to communicate and have a person respond, to have a person visit. So if there's anything I think that I see kind of the grassroots level, it's knowing that the chapter visits by the directors it's not just required, but it's encouraged to help everybody. We're here to help and to grow. We're not here to criticize. We're not here to tear down. We're to say, I think Judy says it best, what can I do to help?
That's right.
And give people the opportunity to tell us.
Yeah, so that's something that's very important to me, is the positive supportive attitude from the director team to the chapters. So let me kind of explain. One of the goals that I've set as executive director when I took this position just barely over a year ago was to have a culture in our region that when one of our BNI professionals, one of our directors or myself, shows up to a chapter meeting, that the chapter members are happy to see them. Oh, good, Joel's here today. This is going to be a good meeting. That's what I want to happen. So positive and supportive attitude from our director team to the members is really, really important. I've got some good news. This will be episode number 4, and we've just been approved with iTunes. So the podcast is going to be distributed in the iTunes directory, which means that that whatever podcast app that you're using to listen to podcasts, you're going to be able to add the BNI Knox podcast to your subscription list. So I use an app on my Android device called Podcast Addict. Just happens to be my favorite. I've tried others, and I stick with this one. And what I love is that I subscribe to podcasts, and when I'm on a Wi-Fi connection, the app in the background will reach out to the web and download the latest new episodes from all of those podcasts that I subscribe to. And then whenever I jump in my car and I plug my phone in to my car, then, I've got them all on my device, so I can just hit play and it starts playing all the podcasts that I subscribe to. So now the BNI Knox podcast can be there. And at the time of this recording, we've just been accepted into iTunes, and within a couple of days, we expect to be fully in the directory. So by the time you're hearing the podcast, you should be able to find us there. And we do encourage you to take a look there, subscribe to the podcast, and if there's ever any questions, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to try to assist. In addition to iTunes, we also publish the podcast on YouTube, and you get to see the video of my screen, and you'll be able to see Joel's pretty picture, right there. So the iTunes is for those who perhaps don't usually listen to podcasts. Maybe they don't normally have podcasts downloaded to listen in their car, for example, or while they're working out or something. You can still click on the iTunes link, the YouTube link, and be able to listen to and enjoy the podcast. We have some announcements. The next scheduled Member Success Program class is scheduled for February the 12th. So go to BNIKnox.com and click on the calendar and scroll over to February the 12th and register to attend that class. You'll find that you'll be able to network with members from other chapters. The instructors bring material that you're not going to get in the online class at BNI University. Now, we encourage you to do both. We're not suggesting that you do one or the other, but we do encourage both if it's possible. Take the Member Success Program training on BNI University. You'll find that the material there is great material. It's in alignment with BNI, of course. It's a BNI product, but it is different in some respects from the material that we deliver at Member Success Program. And in particular, the true life stories that we're able to deliver to help and bring the education there. So go to Member Success Program. Our next podcast will be recorded on January the 23rd at 3 p.m. And again, members, we're asking you to participate live. Today you've heard a conversation between Joel Kavanaugh and myself, but we actually invite you to participate live during our recording, and perhaps you might even be able to speak up and be on the program. To find the link for participation, again, go to the BNIKnox.com calendar, and the next one is January 23rd, 2019 at 3 p.m. You'll find all the links and information that you need to be able to participate there. Let's talk about International Networking Week 2019. International Networking Week is an initiative of BNI. I believe it's in its 11th year now, and it happens every year, February, the first full week of February. So this year, it's going to be February the 4th through the 8th. And the idea behind International Networking Week is to give your clients and your contacts exposure to networking, exposure to BNI, and also exposure to your chapter and your chapter members. So we want to encourage you to invite everyone. Invite all your clients, invite all your vendors, invite all your contacts and connections to come and visit your chapter at the meeting the week of February 4th through the 8th. Whatever day of the week your chapter meets on that week, that's going to be a big day. We want to see a room full of visitors. And to encourage this, we are having a little contest, a chapter versus chapter contest. And the chapter that has the most visitors per member at their meeting that week, we're going to buy dinner for all the members of that chapter. So we're really excited about doing that. We hope that your chapter will pull together. Be sure and talk to your members about it. Talk to your leadership team about it. Make sure that they're announcing it in your chapter every week leading up to the first week of February. And I'd love to have the chance to come to your chapter and present you all with the prize of dinner for every member of the chapter. So, Joel, I think that concludes our episode today. Any final thoughts?
Andy, it's a privilege to be on here, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you to BNI. I look forward to seeing our chapter and our region continue to grow under your able and great leadership.
Well, Joel, I sincerely appreciate you for being on here with us today. We're constantly working together to improve the businesses of our members. And this is the BNI Knox Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Brassfield. And until next week, we're going to sign off. And y'all have a great day.